La Belle Vie wasn't just a restaurant, it was the restaurant. The kind of place where waiters glided between tables like ghosts, where diners whispered over candlelit meals, and where a bottle of wine could cost as much as a month's rent. The pristine marble floors gleamed, the chandeliers sparkled, and the air was thick with the intoxicating aroma of truffle oil and aged beef. Behind the host's stand, James Warner smirked as he scanned the crowd. He loved this job. Not for the food or the people, but for the power. He decided who was worthy of sitting at the best tables and who was better suited to a cramped spot by the kitchen. The night was going smoothly until they walked in. The doors opened, and James's sharp eyes landed on the couple. His smirk disappeared. The man was tall, broad, and impeccably dressed in a tailored navy blazer. The woman exuded elegance, her figure hugged by a sleek black dress. Her natural curls framed a face that radiated confidence and beauty, but James didn't see their poise or their sophistication. All he saw was their skin. "Great," he muttered under his breath, rolling his eyes. "Here comes trouble." The man approached the stand, his voice steady and calm. "Good evening. Reservation for Harper, table for 2. James barely looked up from the reservation book. "You sure you're in the right place?" he asked, his voice dripping with condescension. The woman frowned. "Excuse me?" "I mean, this is La Belle Vie," James said, gesturing dramatically at the room as if to emphasize its exclusivity. "It's not exactly casual dining." The man's expression darkened. "I know where I made the reservation. Table for 2. Harper." James sighed loudly, flipping through the book with exaggerated annoyance. "Yeah, I don't see a Harper here. You must have made a mistake." Marla, the maître d', glanced over. "James, we do have a reservation for Harper at 7. James cut her off with a sharp glare. "I said I've got this." Turning back to the couple, he smirked. "Like I said, no reservation. Maybe try somewhere else. There's a burger joint a couple blocks down. Should be more your speed." The woman's jaw tightened, but her voice remained composed. "We've had this reservation for weeks. Check again." James leaned on the stand, his grin widening. "Lady, I'm telling you, we don't have a table for you. And even if we did, this isn't the kind of place you just show up to. You need to dress the part, act the part, be the part. You don't just waltz in here and expect us to roll out the red carpet." The restaurant had gone silent. Customers nearby were glancing over, some whispering, others pretending not to notice. "James," Marla said firmly, stepping forward. "Enough!" James turned to her, his face twisting in annoyance. "Stay out of it, Marla. I said I've got this." "No, you don't," she snapped. "Mr. and Mrs. Harper, your table is ready. Please, follow me." The couple exchanged a glance, the man placing a calming hand on his wife's shoulder. They followed Marla through the restaurant, leaving James fuming behind the podium. He muttered under his breath as they passed. "Unbelievable! Bringing down the whole place." The woman stopped and turned, her eyes sharp. "What did you just say?" James raised his hands in mock innocence. "Nothing, ma'am. Just wishing you a pleasant meal." As the couple settled into their seats, Marla handed them menus, her voice warm and professional. "I'll have your server here shortly. Please let me know if you need anything in the meantime." "Thank you, Marla," the man said, his voice kind but firm. James approached the table moments later, his expression sour. He slapped the menus down onto the table with a thud. "What can I get you to drink?" he asked flatly. "We'll have 2 glasses of the house red," the man said. James scribbled on his notepad without looking up. "Anything else?" "No, just the wine for now," the woman replied. James stalked off, muttering under his breath. Of course, cheap wine for cheap people. When he returned with the glasses, he placed them on the table so roughly that wine splashed onto the pristine white tablecloth. "Seriously?" the woman said, her voice tight. James shrugged. "Hey, accidents happen. Maybe next time, don't wear white if you're gonna be clumsy." The man's hands tightened into fists, but he took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. "We'd like to order," he said. "We'll start with the charcuterie board. For the mains, the filet mignon for me, and the sea bass for my wife." James jotted it down lazily. Sure. Anything else? Or is that as fancy as you're getting tonight? The woman's eyes flashed with anger. Just the order, thank you. The service only got worse as the night went on. The couple's food arrived late, the portions were wrong, and James made no effort to hide his disdain. Everything okay here? He asked at one point, his voice dripping with sarcasm. I know this might be a little different from what you're used to. The man set his fork down, his patience finally wearing thin. You know what? No, it's not okay. Your attitude has been offensive since we walked in here. James smirked. Hey, I'm just trying to do my job. If you're not happy, maybe you should stick to places that suit you better. The woman stood, her voice shaking with controlled anger. We deserve to be treated with respect, the same as anyone else here. You've been rude, dismissive, and downright insulting. James rolled his eyes. Oh, please, spare me the speech. You're making a scene. The couple finished their meal in silence, their faces a mixture of anger and disappointment. When they requested the check, James dropped it onto the table without a word. As the couple stood to leave, the man turned back to the room, his voice carrying across the restaurant. For anyone wondering, my wife and I are food critics for the Culinary Times. Expect to read about tonight's experience in our next feature. Gasps rippled through the restaurant. And don't worry, the woman added, her voice cutting. We'll be sure to mention Marla's kindness. James's face went pale. His jaw worked soundlessly as the couple walked out the door, their heads held high. The next morning, the owner stormed into the restaurant waving a copy of the Culinary Times. James, he bellowed, get in here. James shuffled into the office, sweat dripping down his forehead. You've destroyed us, the owner growled, slamming the article onto the desk. We're getting calls from sponsors pulling out. Reservations are being canceled left and right. I didn't know they were critics, James stammered. You shouldn't have treated them like trash in the first place, the owner shouted. You're fired. Get out. James left the restaurant that day, his head hung low. His arrogance had cost him everything. Inside the restaurant, Marla was promoted to head server. She made it her mission to create an environment where every guest was treated with dignity and respect. As for the Harpers, their review sent shockwaves through the industry. The article ended with a powerful message. Fine dining is about more than food. It's about respect, dignity, and humanity. And those who fail to see that have no place in this industry. And somewhere, James sat alone, his bitterness eating away at him, knowing he had no one to blame but himself.